Thank you for inviting me to the screening.
Yeah, thank you for going to that
Of course,
screening.
man. I didn't.
That was a little private screening, yeah.
Did you stick around afterwards?
No, I left before it ended.
Are you the type to just dip because you don't want those accolades, or you feel uncomfortable?
I feel uncomfortable with it, yeah.
Do you feel like because it doesn't feel genuine?
No. I feel like I think I have it seared in my kind of consciousness and philosophy, and this is not necessarily a good thing, that like don't celebrate too much, don't get lost in the win,
Yeah.
and also don't get lost in the L, like just be in the middle, you don't need to hear the positive, you don't need to hear the negative, just
Is that feel like a defense mechanism?
Totally. Because of the L's hurt too much. Yeah.
So let's talk about Shortcomings. So I appreciate it. And, I'm also glad that you dipped before the screening ended for various reasons. But as a friend, and I emailed you the day after to say congratulations, because as a friend, I am proud of you. I'm proud of this movie that you put together. It's such a big deal. But I also wanted to live with it.
Yeah.
And I thought about it. And what I love is that this movie stuck with me.
Yeah.
And not in a way of by choice.
Yeah.
It's just like a thing where you just experience it and you go, oh, this is an Asian American movie about the Asian American experience. And I don't think I've seen that before. Is that how you see this movie or describe it?
Totally. I mean, that's what attracted me to the graphic novel initially, was how authentic it felt. But authentic in the sense that it felt like a very accurate portrayal of an everyday life for an Asian American in some ways, accurate in not in the sense that we're kind of trained by media to point out all the things that are culturally accurate, but accurate in terms of just kind of the mundane stuff, Yeah.
How hard was it to get this movie off the ground?
Oh man, it was tough. We once I came on board and we were developing the script and we felt like it was ready to kind of try to get financing, we went to every studio, like indie studio, and got turned down. And
did you not even go to streaming services?
Yeah, we did.
You did?
Went to everywhere, yeah.
How disheartening is that to hear or to experience as a filmmaker?
It was, I would say both. It was disheartening to a degree, but as soon as I would start feeling anywhere near depressed, I would just push that away because it won't serve me, and I think I've been trained to do that by this industry, don't focus on that. There's still some pathways, don't focus on that. Don't, the instinct sometimes is oh man, this industry's racist because you got white movies, again, with these flawed characters that are, every Noah Baumbach movie ever, which I love, but all these simple stories of people in the city, and here we have a great story based on, great source material, and no one's going for it, and I could blame race and get, but what's that going to do for this project, it's just going to make everything seem impossible. So but and then there's other factors, first time filmmaker, for there's a lot of reasons that you could go to, and my thought is, whatever it be, I just don't have time to think about it. Let's try to get financing, and we went to a bunch of financiers who said no, and then we finally got one that was yeah, we get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many months after that did you start pre-production?
Pretty quick, because I had a window, because I was about to shoot. I had to shoot something. I had an acting job lined up, so we had this small window So once we got financing, we like just started the process, and from financing to Sundance, it was very quick.
For people who haven't seen the movie and know you, they fresh off the boat, always be my maybe. And it's like all these movies that I'm just like, nah, like those are fantastic for what they are. This is a different movie.
Yeah,
Is it hard to talk about this movie and go, guys, I'm so appreciative you love Fresh Off the Boat, but this is going to be a little bit darker and a little bit more grounded and real and flawed.
It was something that caused a little anxiety early on. We did a test screening. This is early in the process of an early cut, and you give the audience like these things to fill out, and like the top two reasons why the audience was like said that they were at that screening was because they were fans of me and they were fans of comedy.
Right.
Those were the top two reasons. And like, I was like, both of those are very misleading for this movie.
Right.
I'm not in the movie.
Right.
It's definitely not in the vein of Fresh Off the Boat or anything that, that I'm like most known for, you know? And you're a fan of comedy. Well, this is kind of more of a drama, if anything, you know? It's funny, but it's a drama.
The comedy is coming from the drama.
Yeah, exactly. So and the test screening was just like mid, it didn't like people were unprepared, for it, and my guess was, that's going to be the case going in, like when we come out into the world, people are going to be unprepared. People are going to have either expectations that don't get met, or people are gonna, or their taking in of the film is going to be shaped by all of these thoughts, know.
Talk to me about. And I know it's like you don't always want to talk about the race factor, but it feels necessary. When you have white financiers who are giving you notes on a movie specifically like this, is it hard? How often did you have to put your foot down?
I mean, there were definitely a lot of conversations and a lot of areas where, I would have to explain. There was a lot of explaining. There was a peer. This was shortly after that screening, where I got
test screening.
Yeah, the test screening where I got notes from one of the financiers that was like, we gotta do more comedy, throw in more comedy, and for me it was like, that note completely makes sense. I understand where that comes from. I understand the instinct for that, but what bothered me was that it wasn't the project that I signed on for, right? Number one. And number two, it was like, my whole thing was I wanted to make a movie that was like the movies that I love, coming from the perspectives of these characters, and the movies that I love, going back to like the Noah Baumbach stuff, the Richard Linklater stuff, Sideways, stuff, all these movies that were like influences to Shortcomings. That's awesome. And I couldn't imagine like an exec giving any of those filmmakers the note to put in more jokes, and it was like, well, why can't we have a movie like that? Why do we have to kind of throw every ornament on this tree? It's like, it's not, this is like, I want to show the tree, like I don't want to cover it up with shiny stuff, because to me that's the beauty of these kinds of movies, is that they're not always funny, if they're funny at all,
Right.
Yeah, and I get it though. I get it. You want to entertain the audience. You want to keep them locked in, but this is a different kind of movie. Yeah.
How hard is it for you to separate this idea of creative accomplishment versus a financial blockbuster? Like, can you be happy of the fact that you shot a feature and not have to worry about the financial aspect of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that hard?
No, not for me.
At always, or at this point in your life?
uh, at this point in my life, I think, but I also think, I don't know. I, f- I, this might sound like, I don't, this might sound fake, but it's genuine. Like I really do see the bigger picture. And I see, well, I'm talking about Shortcomings specifically,
Gotcha.
Like, this is my first film. It got into Sundance. To me, that's crazy.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
It's a dream. It's the dream.
Yeah, and being there was a dream.
Yeah.
And outside of that, I'm
Right.
good.
Right.
It got picked up by Sony Pictures Classics. Sony Pictures Classics. I mean,
Incredible.
that logo is
Yeah.
like, came out in theaters. Amazing. Uh, is it a blockbuster? No. Did I expect it to be a blockbuster? No, I didn't. But is it a good movie? I think so. And I think it'll find its people eventually. And in the meantime, when I say bigger picture, it's like I'm thinking of my next one. And I think that it's a good one to start off with. It's not perfect, but it's a good one to start off with. And I think it's going to and it came from the heart. So, I think what the through lines are going to be there with the next one, because I'm going to do my best to come from the heart, So, it is the start of a collection of films that I think will be cohesive to a degree,
Yeah.
And so I feel confident,
This feels like a very just a Randall that's matured and found wisdom through age. Like, but and that's as a director and a producer, but as an actor, was that hard for you in the past to be like, oh, this has to be a huge hit, or was there any anxiety of that ever?
No, not really.
That's fucking
not
amazing.
Really. Yeah, not really.
You're a very healthy person.
I think it's because I started out really from the bottom in a lot of ways, and it was really just about getting a job and making any kind of money, So and I started later.
Yes.
In my later 20s.
Right.
So any work was good, and I kind of kept that ethos, I guess, just get work, do a good job, be nice to people, be kind, be professional. If it hits, who knows what's going to hit?
Right.
Who knew, and WandaVision was, going to be as big as it ended, you just never know, and then Blockbuster, oh, that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't, came and went, so it's and it didn't really faze me. I was just like, well, let's keep moving,
But that's a good transition. I want to get to the early 2000s. Because one of the reasons why I want to talk to you is that we both started out around that time.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you at that time, but in going through
I remember you at that time because I would see you sometimes.
Was it at 101?
No. I would see you at auditions sometimes.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then, but I also knew you were a writer and that you wrote for some shows. I don't remember what shows, but I remember thinking, oh man. And I also knew you were down with, Lonely Island and all them. And I was like, oh man, what a great,
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And I remember that thinking oh yeah, that's a comedy guy right there.
Oh,
yeah.
That's funny. That's really flattering to hear because I knew you from the guy who got the jobs that I didn't get.
I didn't get that many jobs
but
though.
Let's go through it because I'm really interested. So after you graduated at UCLA, what was the goal?
The goal was to get a job, a full-time job.
What was that job?
I worked in graphic design. Yeah, and then to put on plays, write plays, put them on with my, the same folks from the college theater company after we graduated. So we just wrote a bunch of plays, and we would rent out theaters in LA, do runs of plays, and then also I would got into stand up, got into improv, eventually got into like shooting stuff, but all of that stuff was like kind of on the side for fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because at the time, I mean, I guess because I was shooting with The Lonely Island, and it felt like video production was just starting to take off.
Yeah.
It became more accessible. We had Final Cut. We could edit from our house, which is insane.
Yeah.
But you chose to do more theater productions. Was that just a creative, you just creatively were like theater more than actual production?
It was an offshoot of that college theater company, so it felt like natural,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just doing stage stuff, like related stuff, felt like just more. Also, again, it wasn't like something that I was looking to do professionally, so it was like
you were doing theater as a side
just
hobby?
For fun, yeah. Yeah, and then but then when the technology became more affordable, we started making stuff. This was after like because Lonely Island was doing Channel 101 stuff, and this was after you guys, when I came into 101 and started making stuff.
Carried the flag.
Yeah.
You had a good run at 101.
Yeah, I did. It was great.
So at what point did you start going out on auditions?
Probably when I was around 28.
So you start going out on auditions in about 2008.
Yeah, well, really about 2003, 2004.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah,
2003,
2004. And do you remember, like, what is the worst audition you remember going on? Do you remember any of your worst ones?
Yeah, I mean, I had so many bad auditions. I'm not a good auditioner.
In retrospect, what did you learn from those bad auditions? Like, how did you learn how to audition better?
Dude, I mean, really, it got to the, after like years of, maybe booking here and there, but not a lot. And just like a lot of I was just like, I got to get methodical with it, and like literally like have a set way of preparing that I do it the same way every time, and then a set way of, kind of rehearsing it, kind of figuring out my own program.
Yeah.
So every time an audition came, okay, I'm going to put it into the program. I'm going to do this. I'm going to break down the script, the sides. I'm going to mark up the sides this way. I'm going to, and it still didn't help that much, but I think I started booking a little more, after that.
It's interesting, as now a director of TV and film, you can, on the other side, when you watch auditions, there's so many other factors that go into a decision, and it has nothing to do with talent.
Nothing.
Like, it has nothing to do with that. Like, I could see someone who's so talented, kills an audition, and I go, it's just a different look. Like, I'm not, you're so specific.
But all you know is the work you put in, the time you put in.
Oh, trust me, I got it.
The hopes, the need for money, like the need to pay rent. Like a single audition is so fraught with so much
riding
for
on
you.
Yeah.
But on the other side, it's just like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it doesn't quite look right.
How did you deal with the rejection? I know
that was hard.
It was hard, especially at a young. You start in your 20s. It's like you're so fragile with like this dream.
Yeah.
Were you able to talk to like family or anything about friends?
No, I didn't tell my family I was doing it.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't know I was doing it. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's generational too, of just being like they won't understand?
Well, because initially, early on, I would tell them, I want to do this, and they would like shoot it down, and I was so kind of sensitive about it that as soon as they shoot it down, I'd be like, it would really like be hard to pick myself back up. Yeah. So when I decided to pursue it, I was like, I can't tell them. Sometimes
you gotta protect it.
Yeah, like, and if I told them like early on, if I told them about a job or like, I booked this thing. I booked this like student film. Oh, how much you getting paid? Well, I'm not. I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
Why are you working without getting paid? You're in your later 20s,
Right.
And it'd be like, oh God, you're right, And then I would like feel so bad, but it would feel like a hit, like a blow,
Absolutely.
So it got to the point where I can't tell them anything. There's too much rejection in this. I can't lean on them. share my victories with them, because then it becomes more questions, you know.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, so it wasn't really until much later that I was actually fairly open with them, and I still don't like tell them like, hey, I booked this movie, you know.
Right.
You know, but they, when they ask, it's like I'm open, and you know,
Yeah.
they'll see
That's
stuff, and
sweet that they
yeah.
actually ask.
Oh yeah, they're super proud of me now, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
actually like pretty cool.
What were some of the acting classes you took?
I took Leslie Kahn.
I remember
I
Leslie Kahn.
did John Rosenfeld. I was there for a long time.
I
Yeah.
mean, I remember it being like predominantly white.
Oh yeah.
How hard was that to operate in that space?
Yeah, I felt like race usually wasn't a factor, although, you know, there was this one class, Leslie Kahn's class. I don't know if you remember, but you had to take this like comedy intensive weekend, like a weekend, in order to get into the school. And there is this one exercise where we'd all sit down, and then each person would go up in the front, sit in a swivel chair, and then with the back facing the audience, the rest of the class, and then we turn around, and everyone would just say the first thing that they think. The point was to be unfiltered, and this was an exercise in, well, this is how people see you, and I see how it could be helpful in the sense that the industry is going to see you a certain way, right? And you have to be aware of how the industry sees you, because that's what going to dictate the kinds of jobs you get, the kinds of characters you'll play, you know, all that stuff.
Sure.
And I remember turning around, and
But you were nervous you were nervous because you knew what was coming, right?
I wasn't. I don't remember. I don't remember, but I think I was a little bit. I must have been kind of innocent about
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
because I thought, oh, you know, I'm getting along with this class. They're all cool.
Oh, man.
And I remember like this big, handsome, you know, Brad Pitt looking white guy was in the class, and he came up and turned around, and you know, it was all the
Sure.
like you know, cowboy hero, like, you know, uh, uh, um, you know, dragon
Privilege.
slayer, whatever, you know. Uh, uh,
This guy, does anyone yell? This guy's entitled. Trust fund?
Yeah, and then I went up there, turned around, and it was like, literally, I'm not even joking, like computer programmer, doctor, tutor, you know, restaurant worker. Somebody said child molester, which was like crazy.
We have that under our belt. Is that our new stereotype too? We got child
I
molester.
was
What the
like, that's
fuck?
not helping me with my work,
Or
you
my
know?
or my personal life as far as
Yeah,
dating.
yeah. And I remember just kind of coming out of that exercise being very jarred. And again, these were all people I got along with, you know. Uh, but in some ways, the exercise was helpful, because it really did make me like realize, oh, this is how they see you. Thing was, it's like, because I had been doing theater with my college theater company, and I had been doing it post college with Eddie Shin, and
Yeah.
like all, you know, uh, uh, and we were writing our own material. I got to play everything, you know.
Yeah.
I got to play the gamut of characters, you know.
Yeah.
And then here I get thrust into this industry where like the types of things I got to play was very limited, you know. It was kind of solidified in that class experience of like, well, these are the options, you know. Like, I remember it being pretty devastating, and then at the end of the weekend, you know, every actor was to come up with a log line for themselves. Cowboy hero, you know, in search of revenge, you know, that could be like the log line, you
Sure,
know.
sure.
And Leslie Kahn was supposed to help you find that log line. So once you finish that weekend, you go off into the industry uh, with your log line, and that's how you pitch yourself to the industry, you know. And I remember I couldn't think of one for myself,
Ah,
and she couldn't think of one for me.
my
So I
God.
came out of that weekend without my own log line, you know.
I think she owes you money back.
And after that experience, I didn't go back. You know, I didn't like
Yeah.
take. I didn't continue with classes there, 'cause I was just like, okay, I'm going to places. I'm only going to places where I could learn, grow, and become more confident in what I'm doing. If I'm not getting those three things, then it's not going to help me, you know. Yeah, and I think the child molester thing maybe came in part because how I was dressed that day.
What was the attire?
Probably had a button up with a button all the way to the top. I don't remember, but
Now it sounds kind of funny.
yeah, it was. I think it was kind of more funny in context, and this was back in 04, 05 or something like that.
You know what? Here's the scary part. If you do that exercise today, I still think there's a lot of remnants of that.
So yeah, I mean, you can't reverse that history in a matter of like half a decade. Like you
right.
can't. Yeah.
The new woke shit. So you get Fresh Off the Boat, and it's this incredible monumental show for Asian Americans.
Yeah.
How, and I know, by the way, I know you're super grateful. I know this was an incredible experience for everyone who was on the cast and everyone, writers, directors, everyone. At a certain point as a creative, are you, do you go, we did what we came to do, it's time to move on? Was there anything, a part of you, like by season 5, you go, all right, I think we're good here?
Not in, I was like at it for so long. I had done so many pilots, none of them got picked up the series, and it was very hard for a very long time. And there was a point where I came to this realization that, okay, I'm either going to keep doing this or I'm going to do something else. But if I keep doing this, I'm probably not going to, be rich and famous and make even a good living off of this.
Wow.
But as long as I can hold a part-time job and still do this, if that's the rest of my life, I'll be okay,
Wow.
And I remember, and that changed my expectations, because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna book 2 commercials a year, maybe 1 co-star, and anything else is extra, and then I'm gonna work this part-time job, and that's gonna be my life, and I'm gonna get old with that life, and I'm gonna have some really good years and some, but that's the base. So I mean, when I say I was genuinely grateful, like I was genuinely grateful. By like 4th, 5th, 6th season, it was like, if it ends, I'm good.
Yeah.
If it doesn't end, great. There was never a period where I was like, I got to get off of this show, or like, I hate this. It was always like, I mean, it helped that I was making money, like, finally.
Yeah.
I was like making money.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that.
Man.
I was making money.
Consistent money.
Yeah, consistent money out of this industry where I was just like scraping by for so long. So
it's hard not to be grateful.
Yeah. And as far as the artistic thing, I was like still doing a lot of other stuff. Like when we were off, like I got to like pop in on this movie, work with Stoller on this project. So I felt like I was like
meeting all your needs.
Yeah. And as far, I mean, I think I still had like dreams and like things where it's like, oh, I want to try this next time, or like after this is all done, I hope to be here. I hope to do that. I hope to direct a movie one day. I hope to do,
right.
all those things. But I was definitely not like, I got to get the hell off of this show ever. I was, yeah.
Now, where you are in your career, at what point do you just have to let go of some of the roles that you're offered and go, if I dissect this, I can pull out 20% Asian stereotype in this?
Yeah.
How much do you go, okay, it's 80% good, I just got to let the other 20 go?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I am always aware.
Yes.
Specifically
as a writer.
Yeah. I'm always aware. I'm always like thoughtful about things, but I also feel like intention is important,
Right.
like this character, he's a doctor, but the intention of the character is this whole other thing that's way more human than just like being a doctor, like so I don't let it dictate me too much. I mean, a lot of it is just gut go with the gut.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's go back before we even get to a little bit later in the 2010s. You were in a rap group or a rap band?
A band.
A band meaning you had a live band playing behind you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were one of the rappers.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
was this a hobby or you were actively pursuing?
This was a hobby,
hobby.
because this was during that time when I was, working these full-time jobs and,
Right.
just messing around with these friends, mostly from college, but some outside of college. And we would, I always loved rap music and loved to write,
Yeah.
So it was just like for fun, we would just like mess around. And then next thing you knew, we were like booking clubs like around
shit.
LA. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Went up north, did some shows. I mean, we were like,
This is also another marker.
yeah. Totally. And it totally like connected to all that other stage stuff I was doing. I felt like it was all like, and on our shows, our live music shows it was just basically comedy,
Oh,
We
was
were just
it was comedic songs?
the songs weren't comedic, but the performance was very silly and, just like super bravado, yeah.
What music were you listening to at the time? Do you remember?
I was only listening to rap music. That's it.
Do you still listen to hip hop today?
All the time.
Who are you listening to right now?
Oh, I like grimy, I love like anything like Griselda related.
Rappers come to my city, they gon' need consent. Cause we already know you pussy, nigga, we convinced.
I love West Side Gun. Huh? Oh, I love Benny the Butcher. Conway is incredible. Yeah. Conway's just like great rappers, you know? Yeah.
Let's talk about Wildin' Out. All the rapping that you did as a hobby and the listening to and the theater, it really segues into Wildin' Out. Where are you in your career at this point when you book Wildin' Out?
That was probably like '06, so I was a few years in.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was my first kind of semi-regular thing.
Yeah.
I was it was a process auditioning for that. I had to go in like 3 or 4 times, but a lot of it was like improv games.
Right.
Which I was better at,
Right.
But I also had all these pre-written rhymes because I was performing these live shows,
For sure. Absolutely.
So I remember throwing one of those out during the audition. Met some of my closest friends on that show, who I'm still friends with. Yeah, Leonard Robinson is like one of my best friends. Marcus Ray is one of my best friends. Taryn Killam, like these guys are like all like dear friends. Yeah,
that's amazing, man. I wanted to ask you. You had the preparation, which is like all these markers that were already in place. But did you realize going in that race was going to be the punchline
for Wildin' Out?
Yeah,
for sure.
You knew, going in, you knew. So that didn't deter you. You were just like, I'm just gonna take that bullet and I have another rhyme for that.
I didn't even see it as a bullet, really. I almost saw it as an advantage. Like. You remember when Jin went on 106 and Park, and it's like they're gonna throw that at you. You just all you gotta do is have your comeback,
right.
Yeah.
How much of you wanting to pursue a career in the arts was the lack of representation growing up, and you saying, "Oh, I want to see someone like myself be on screen," and you started writing for yourself, as opposed to there's a lot of white people that I know are just like, I'm going to be a creative. There's no representation for me.
Yeah. I mean, that was a part of it, for me. I mean, I think it was, because I majored in Asian American studies, and it was like, I was very conscious of those things. And it was definitely like, I think probably early on, it's like, I want to change the industry, but, and then, once I kind of got into it, it was like, I'm not changing this industry, but I'll do whatever I can. And in the meantime, I'll do these like plays with this Asian American theater group and, and just kind of tell our stories in that way.
Does it feel weird that your career, you look back and you go, oh, I made a footprint in this industry?
Yeah. I don't think about it that often, but when it does kind of come up, it is kind of trippy, like that that Fresh Off the Boat, to have come from an Asian American studies background and then to have done Fresh Off the Boat, it's kind of wild.
Let me tell you how the story go.